Well, I think everybody in this room will agree with me that when the playoffs started, the Phillies are the best team in baseball. I mean, not because I'm standing here, but they are the best team in baseball. But the best team don't always win. You have to go out and play the games. I mean, the Yankees were probably the second best team. Shut up. Is there any Cub fans in the audience? No Cub fans? Why would you be a Cub fan? Why? Do you know what God told the Chicago Cubs? Don't do nothing till I get back. And of course, Texas beat the Yankees. So I know one thing for sure: that you can bet your ass that baseball is praying that Texas don't play San Francisco,
right?
Because nobody's gonna watch a damn World Series. So they need Philadelphia to get in that World Series. And I tell you, you just don't understand. See, the Phillies are in a tough situation for this reason. I think is anything less than going to the World Series is a disappointment for you people as Phillies fans, because you expected because of going to the World Series the last 2 years.
Right.
And that puts you in a tough situation. So if they lose tonight or tomorrow night, you're going to say they had a terrible year. And they had a good year. I mean, they had another fantastic year. But when you expect someone to win and they don't win, you're so disappointed you think they had a bad year. And that's just the way it is. But they'll be all right. They can get to tonight's game. San Francisco had been through it before. See, that don't concern me about how the Phillies prepared for the playoffs, because I have to think they did it the right way. Because this is the third straight year they've done it. It's not like it's the first time you go to the playoffs, the first time you go to the World Series, and you don't know how to stay hot, or you don't know how to take your batting practice, you don't know what time to get to the ballpark. See, we're all creatures of habits in baseball. That's why I was a little concerned when Oswald came in to pitch relief the other night, because he's a great pitcher, but pitchers today, they pitch, they'll go to the ballpark a certain time, they'll eat a certain time, they'll stretch a certain time, they'll go down to the bullpen a certain time, they'll warm up a certain time, because they do it every 4 or 5 days. Now all of a sudden he throws on the side the day of the game, he goes down to the bullpen, and he's asked to do something he's probably never done before, and that's pitching relief. And not because he got beat, but it's just nuts. It's like asking a guy that plays every day not to play for a week and DA or pinch hit. If you're not used to doing it, it's difficult to do. Or asking a pinch hitter, answer that might be Bud Selig. You don't know, it'd be a black call. So you have to stay in your element, and I think that's what we see a lot in the playoffs. Now, I guess you're all concerned with Chase Utley, but he didn't have a good year this year. And when we watch him play tonight, or 2 nights ago, or 3 nights ago, we're thinking about the guy that hit all the home runs in the World Series, and the guy that hit 325, and the guy knocked in 120 runs. Well, he didn't do that this year. Victorino hit 248, I think, this year. You know, the Phillies don't have an MVP candidate simply because they had so many guys that missed so many games this summer because of injuries. But they had a good team, and they had a lot of guys that didn't expect to play, got some playing time because of the injuries to all the players. That's just a credit to the team when you have injuries and you fill in with guys who have good years, and that's what the Phillies did this year. Now, does anybody want to test my knowledge in baseball and ask me a question? And it better be a good question, or I'm going to embarrass that shit out of you. If you say no, I'm taking my ass out of here and going home. You know, one time in 1970, funny story, we had an all-star game with Cincinnati, and I went out to eat with Willie Mays. Willie was great. And Willie had this light gray sharkskin suit on, nice tie. And he got up and he had to go to the restroom. He came back, and I noticed, I'm looking at him, he had water all over both sides of his pants. And I looked at Willie and I said, Willie, what the hell is going on? And Willie's like this, he says, man, he says, you ain't gonna believe this. He said, I was in the bathroom and the guy said, ain't you Willie Mays? He said, that son of a bitch peed on me. in the world peed on Willie Mays at the All-Star game in 1970. Now, does anybody have any questions? I listen to people up.
Pete,
Yes.
who was the toughest pitcher you ever faced?
Toughest pitcher I ever faced. Koufax. I got 10 for 59 off of it. The best pitcher I ever faced, I hit 3-4 off on was Marichal. But the toughest pitcher was Koufax. The best competitor was Bob Gibson. You know, we used to have you talk about pitching, we used to have a road trip where we'd go from Cincinnati to L.A., face Koufax and Drysdale and somebody else, go up to San Francisco and face Marichal and Perry and somebody else, and go to St. Louis to face Gibson and Carlton and somebody else. So we played 9 games and faced 6 Hall of Fame pitchers. That's a tough road trip. Now I got 76 or 77 hits off of Phil Negro, and I got 34 hits off his brother Joe. So I got a 40th of all my hits off the Negro family.
Hit off of everybody.
If she'd have had 5 sons, I'd have got 5,000 hits. It's just, I don't, you know, Euchre had the best way to describe Bob Euchre, the catcher at Cotton Negro. They asked him one time, how do you catch a knuckleball? He said, wait until somebody stops rolling and pick it up. Which makes sense, I guess. But the way you hit a knuckleball is just swing at it, don't poke at it. And what I never did against Phil Negro is I very seldom swung at the first pitch. Because once he got behind, he threw that nothing fastball. Because, you know, I had Morgan, Bench, and Perez coming up after me. He wouldn't go mess around with me. He'd give me that little drugstore fastball and hit a rope somewhere. That's the advantage of having Schmidt and Perez and guys like that hitting after you.
That was
Mike Schmidt. Mike Schmidt's greatest third baseman ever played a game of baseball. I was very lucky. Think about it. I played with Mike Schmidt, the greatest third baseman ever, greatest catcher ever, Johnny Bench, and I played with the greatest second baseman ever, Joe Morgan. There's only 8 positions on the field, and I played with 3 of the best at their positions. And Steve Carlton, certainly one of the top 3 left-handers in the history of baseball. Him and Warren Spahn and Sandy Koufax.
Mark McGuire?